Good afternoon, you wee bastards, and welcome back to War Thunder with Koala. Today we're doing a style of video that I haven't really done in a long time, a post-commentary tutorial / review on the German premium light tank Ru-251. I've got a decent game to show you today, far from the best result an Ru-251 can achieve, but nonetheless a good indicator of what you can expect from an average match in it. Now, the footage you're seeing in the background is not recent. Actually, this game took place all the way back in patch 1.77. However, nothing to do with the Ru-251's position has changed, so don't worry. Matchmaker's no different, its enemies are still functionally identical besides the BMP2, which can wreck your day if you come up against it, but you can also wreck his pretty easily. So why am I using footage from so long ago? Well, partly because I've been too busy to really sit down and record lately, as I've been putting some work into my Patreon, which you should totally come and join, link below. But I was playing the American 6.3 lineup, and of course had someone on my team raging in chat that the Ru-251 is the most overpowered thing in the game. It's cancerous, autistic, it should be 7.3, only noobs play it, pay to win, the whole 9 yards. The Ru-251 is not overpowered at 6.7. It may still be just as functional in a full up tier, and that's the way we're playing it today with the mouse and leopard combo, but it's at a relatively balanced position where it is currently. For use with the two 6.7 King Tigers, the Tech Tree variant and the premium SLA-16, you've got the Coelian, the ME262A1U4 or Narwhal, Arado B2. It's a great lineup, one of the best, especially if you have some backups, which these days you can get for free, so no excuses. The response to this teammate of mine from the enemy player, however, was even worse. This player said that the Ru-251 was not only not overpowered, but actually poorly performing, barely usable, a waste of money, painful to play, Gaijin hates Germany. You know, Germany is struggling, am I right? This is something I hear uncomfortably often. The Ru-251 seems to be quite a polarizing tank, and, well, the Ru-251 may be the most lucrative premium vehicle in the entire game. Not only is it fiercely competitive at its own tier in the hands of any half-decent player, but it's also one of those rare vehicles that stays competitive on every map and all the way beyond a full up tier. The Ru-251 is just as worthwhile as a 7.7 as it is at 6.7, and of course anywhere in between, with the German 7.0 lineup once again being one of the strongest this game has to offer. Panther 2, 10.5cm Tiger 2, Kugel Blitz, Jagdtiger, Horten 229, Arado C3, throw in the Ru-251 as well in place of the Jagdpanzer 4.5 and maybe the SLA-16 in place of the 105, depending on which you like better. It's honestly one of the best and most fun lineups there is, and there's not really much that you can't do with it. The Ru-251 is one of the simplest vehicles in the entire game to get kills with, and, well, as I said, this was far from the greatest gameplay ever in this tank. I've seen people get double the kills. It is one of those matches that embodies the playstyle of the vehicle, and as I said in the intro, it's essentially what you can expect from the vehicle. So the first move I made was to rush the capture zone. This is obviously a match with a single cap, and my next objective was to push just slightly further than the enemy was expecting, with a bit of a cheeky flanking position, and wait for the overconfidence of Russian heavy tank players to basically feed me easy money. Extend too far in an Ru-251 and, well, zero armor, reload speeds nothing to boast about, no post-pin damage, you do the math. As I go through, I'm making a conscious effort to keep watching that fellow Ru-251 pushing with me. If I see him go down, it's time to relocate. I'm also scouting enemies as I go through, as my team may be able to guess where they are roughly. It's a single cap game after all, but knowing which specific rocks they'll be hiding behind will really help my fellow wereabouts push up safely with me, which in return means that I'm not overextending, and I get some free RP and SL. Win-win. I've taken out the Object 120, who obviously didn't expect me this far this soon, spot the other one behind the rock, easily outflank him as he's got no idea I'm even here. And that's the main thing that the Ru-251 has under its belt. You see a bad situation, you just go around it. Hull break the Turan, that's 2 targets down, and we're right near their main spawn area, the spearhead of the German attack. Now, the most common complaint I hear about the Ru-251 is that it doesn't do post-penetration damage, which gets it killed, and originally when I first got the Ru-251, I thought the same. However, this is a problem that any high-tier British tanker will know how to counter. I've been aiming for side shots on crew, like here against this IS-6. Anything you can pen frontally, you're aiming for a driver-gunner shot, but these days ammunition detonation is quite a bit more reliable than it was back in patch 1.77, and Hesh is also performing substantially better, keep that in mind. Now, I get taken out by the IS-3 moving out of his spawn. Perhaps I was a little overzealous in my pushing, that's alright. But really, this match is over, whether I use this backup or not. I've done my job and some, and my team is positioned well, they're coordinated. It would really be a pain for the Russian team to dig us out of these positions, and they just killed an Ru-251 right outside their spawn, which means they have no clue whatsoever where our team might be. We could be anywhere by this point in the game. Spawn the backup. This late in the game there'd be no point trying to use anything else, and head straight back towards where we died before. I know that any enemies approaching down this lane will be in full view of my friendlies and therefore preoccupied, and that ideology proves itself when I come face to face with an Su-122-54 who's still on a relatively long reload. This is one reason the Ru-251 should not overextend. If you're going up against targets frontally, you need to be precise with your shots. No room for error when you're likely to get hull broken the second a shell 73mm or bigger touches you anywhere, so it's very useful to wait for enemies to fire before taking the shot, as you've plenty of time to be precise about it. You should ideally be lining up shots that will prevent the enemy tank firing back at you should they survive, so breaches, loaders and gunners. If you're confident enough in your cover or your friendly support, then go for the ammunition or perhaps the driver to prevent the enemy from retreating back into cover of their own. Either way, do not allow yourself to be seen by enemies before you're ready to kill them, as even the secondary 50 cals on American heavies can take you out frontally. Where possible, you should think about closing the gap on tanks that might be able to fire back at you. Let's say you scuff a shot on a Centurion and only take out his commander from close range. Get in even closer where your mobility can beat out his turret traverse. If you're concerned that the enemy might know where you are, relocate. There's always more to kill. And you're not the kind of tank that's equipped to deal with players who are intentionally hunting you down. You find it incredibly easy to change positions, having one of the highest top speeds in the game, which makes you a vital asset on big maps late game, and one thing you can do if you find yourself on the losing team is just zip around behind them, loading Hess shells and lobbing them into the back of enemy turrets, scouting as many enemies as you can. This way your team can push out with a little bit of foreknowledge as to what they're driving into, and won't have quite the numbers to deal with. The enemy team will also be in a bit of confusion. Like most tanks, particularly light tanks, you win or lose by your team. It's a rare player that can win a match single-handedly in any tank, let alone one like this. So your main job is not to go and win the game, but to constantly be where your team needs you, doing damage here and there, preventing the enemy team from getting an early foothold on the map, and providing reconnaissance so that your teammates know what's going on outside their own field of view. You're the one that has to go and dig out the snipers. You're the one that has to go and scout ahead. You're the one that has to rush across the map if your team needs you somewhere else. You're not a main battle tank. Don't try and use the Ru-251 like a leopard, it's not. The reason you remain so potent even in an up tier is that the crews of main battle tanks are far closer together than those of mediums or heavies at 6.7 and below, and none of them really have much side armor. You can easily penetrate everything at your tier. Your biggest threats are going to be the Soviet heavies, as even with side shots they can prove a bit trolly on the turret. Everything else, well, you're not supposed to have to face it front on. If they know where you are, you're engaging the wrong tank. Take a forward position, let them come rolling past you before firing, and try not to stay still, even if there are more tanks to kill. Your teammates can kill things too, you know. I don't think this tank is overpowered, however, as it can be quite challenging to get a lot of kills reliably, even despite that speed and penetration of the main gun. 50 cals from close air support tear this thing apart, as do the secondary machine guns on particularly heavy tanks at tier 5. And of course the British have stabilizers, while this tank takes quite a while to get its gun on target if you're bouncing over terrain at 60 kph. And just going spawn fishing to get a lot of kills isn't always the most valuable team play. I find often that an Ru-251, or other light tank for that matter, will be spawn camping, but at the same time the tanks that player has flanked around have taken control of the map and are spawn camping themselves. Once again, you have to be where your team needs you the most, not just where you can get the most kills. Please note that sometimes these two things do happen to be one and the same. If you're not quite sure how to define where your team needs you, basically start by looking for where they're dying. Check the kill feed to see what's killing them, and then try to work out where that player is liable to be per the map that you're on. Neutral or hostile capture zones are another good place to start, but be careful not to rush straight in there, as your tank's ability hinges on you not being spotted. You should know where your enemy is long before they know your own location. In this match, I was watching the minimap to assess my team's positions, and see a kind of curve within which there are no teammates, so that's where I've been patrolling. Watching for all three of these things will help you be a better tanker in general, but in a light support style vehicle like the Ru-251, it's the be all and end all of your playstyle. That's what your speed is for. There's also no point in scouting enemy vehicles that your teammates don't have any ability to take out anyway. Anyway, that's going to conclude this video on the Ru-251. Please leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you haven't already. We're well on the road to my goal of 10,000 subscribers by the end of this year. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section down below. Do you disagree? Tell me why. What experiences did you tend to have in this tank? Before I go, I just want to say that I've revamped my Patreon to give you guys some rewards for your support, so do go check it out at the link in the video description, as it really does help me out. For certain tiers, you can get special privileges on the Koala Tree, my Discord server, credits at the end of videos, or be invited to join Dion Albanach, my War Thunder squadron, and as a part of the squadron, you may be able to feature in upcoming videos. Thanks to those existing patron koalas, I hope to see many more of you joining, but until next time, always remember lads, keep your bagpipes to hand, your kilts on, and I shall see you next video. Thank you to the lads who support me on Patreon. Dark Recon. If you like joining them, come check out the link in the description below.